Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rogue Pod.
Today we have a very special guest, Eman Esfandi, also known as the amazing Ezra Bridger.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of this and for joining us. So incredible to speak to you.
Yeah, I
Thank
was
you
so
so much.
excited. Yeah, and again, congrats on the new Spider-Man movie that just came out. That's such an amazing thing. That must have been so cool.
Yeah, it was, and it is, and it's still kind of blowing my mind how big that is, actually. Star Wars is very big, and so getting accustomed to the size of that and the fandom was an experience, and it's been fun though, been really good. But then Spider-Man was like, it was much more and much faster, and so it's been interesting. But the movie's amazing, and I'm very happy about everything.
It must be really special for you, too, because when Ahsoka came out, the strikes were going on. So there was no premiere, there was nothing like that. It was very, it was unfortunate because you guys couldn't just talk about it as much. And especially with your character, obviously we don't find out that you appeared till later. So this must have been like really cool just to be a part of like an actual premiere, like a large scale premiere like this, experience with all the fans, right?
A blast, and
Yeah.
because uh, I just didn't know they'd put it in the trailer, the scene, part of the scene,
Yeah.
or you also don't know if you end up in these bigger movies that have so many amazing actors and characters and storylines. You don't know what stays and what doesn't. And so it was just an amazing surprise to be in the trailers, and then I was so grateful that they had me come to the premiere. That was a very special moment for me in my life. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Oh,
That's
that's amazing.
amazing.
So, when did you start your acting career then? Is this like something that you grew up doing, or was that
Mm.
something that you kind of discovered later on in life?
I actually picked it up later in life. I was getting my economics degree from UT Austin in Texas. So I have an economics degree. And while I was doing that, I realized I didn't really want to go into the careers that they sort of funneled into, that degree in particular, or accounting and finance. And so, soul searching, one thing led to another. Went to an acting workshop hosted by Kim and Brad Burton, casting directors in Austin. And it was an audition workshop. I volunteered. They liked what I did. And they said, "Hey, we'd love to have you come in for an audition." So send them a picture. They were like, "We need your headshot." I'm like, "What's a headshot?" And so then I sent them they said, "Send us a clear picture." And I sent it to them. And they put me in a commercial that week. No audition. I didn't do anything in the commercial. I just sit there. I'm part of like a group of people. But I had been on like student loans and teaching tennis for some extra cash and helping out the fam with some of that money. And so money was a thing on my mind. And I'm no longer thinking I'm going to use my degree to go where I want to go. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I do this commercial, and it was like $500 for a couple hours of just sitting down. I thought, wow. And I called my mom, Mom, I figured out a way to make a lot of money fast. And she's like, what? I go, I'm gonna be an actor. And she explodes. Yes, mijo, vas a ser una estrella. You're gonna be a star. You already are a star. I was like, thanks, Mom. Thanks. I just got this much money for this many hours. I'm gonna look into it. So then I'm Googling how to be an actor. Auditions, reels, all the things. I did like over 20 student short films that year. Like I just went all in, joined an acting
Wow.
class. Yeah, all in Austin. It was perfect for me. It was a smaller film market, a lot of student films, indie films, and a great acting coach, Laurel Louvre, for in the moment acting. And I just like what is it called? The phrase is like it's like not grit your teeth. It's like I forget the phrase, but I got in my reps, let's say, in Austin, you know, tons of
Yeah.
shorts, tons of things, made my own films, all that kind of stuff. And then eventually got a manager in LA, John Tynan, and moved out here 2018 and been out here since.
That's amazing. And I
Yeah.
feel like when people think of like acting, they usually highlight LA or New York. So the fact that you were able to start in Austin and
Yeah.
like build your way up to there is incredible. So if you if you didn't grow up with acting, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like was there anything else that like you were really passionate about? You mentioned tennis.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to be a pro tennis player,
Yeah.
But I started late. Started at 13. It's pretty late for tennis, and I didn't have like an environment to grow very much in tennis. It was very solitary. I learned on YouTube and hit with the wall a lot, and I did pretty well. I learned a lot, and I got pretty good. Played a couple years of college there at Laredo College, and it was a huge team at the time, like one in the nation for 9 years. I was like barely good enough to be on that team. It was like a miracle, but got to play a couple years of college ball with some really good players and realized, you know what? I don't think I don't think I'll go pro if this is my trajectory. If I want to go pro, I need to go back to the drawing board, refine all my technique, and just take a different approach to tennis altogether. And I've been doing that still since then. I'm now training again to go pro in tennis.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's my
That's
original,
incredible.
yeah, it was my original dream, you know?
So it must be like at the time when you made that transition, because you said college. So, I mean, I assume that kind of goes around the timeline when you were starting a little bit of acting, right? Is that roughly, or
Well, me not being a tennis player with the intention to be a pro anymore, or at least being a college athlete
yeah,
anymore, meant okay, it's going to take a few years to fix my technique. So there's no
yeah,
rush. So I was soul searching because I knew, eventually I'd have to make some money after college, and I was like interviewing people at coffee shops. I was kind of going to do like a Humans of New York, the Instagram page, but with crossroads, like what degree did you get? What career did you expect to go into with it? And are you happy, or did you change your mind, or did something, same crossroads I was at.
yeah.
And that's what actually led me to the acting workshop. So it was post no longer going for pro tennis. I ended up at this acting workshop to meet the people, really. I was there to like meet more people who could be a part of this thing I was making. And I did meet a lot of those people and they were fantastic. But then I also became a part of the project in a way, and I stumbled into the acting, was like, okay, let's go with this for now until my real career shows itself.
I was gonna say, I know you mentioned like the acting workshops and everything, and I guess more so at the beginning of your acting career, like, was there one piece of advice or advice that you were given that maybe stuck with you all of these years during your acting career now?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
The thing about advice is it generally comes from people who have seen or experienced things you've seen or experienced. And I have to admit, being half Ecuadorian, half Persian, born in Texas, American, a lot of the advice I got was not applicable to me. So it felt like I was constantly like, if I did get advice, I'd be like, okay, and I'd have to take it all with a grain of salt, knowing,
Hmm.
well, we are running a different race, pun intended, and it changes the way the advice is taken. But I had an amazing acting coach, Laurel Vouvray, and she was very hard on me. I was a very stubborn young man, very confident young man, and arrogant at times. So she really helped me, figure that out and become more grounded, and focus on the right things. And so I got a lot of advice from her throughout the years, and it was never one thing in particular about this or that, but um, she she teaches Meisner, and Meisner's all about being present and being in the moment. And I still to this day use everything I learned in her class, and maybe some of the techniques or the processes or methods I don't apply because some are inherent now or some are whatever. But the core of what she was teaching me, it still remains the thing that I think allows me to enjoy being an actor and be present on set and even in my regular life. I mean, it changed the way I existed being in her course and learning to get out of my head, and just be in the moment. And so I still always think of that core principle of, because you could be in a little room in the back of some plaza in an acting class with 30 people on wooden chairs, or you could be on a Star Wars set, and the principle of being present is exactly the same. And that still really resonates with me very much. I remember my first day on season one, I asked them actually if I could go a day early to watch because I want to know if there's anything as an actor I should be aware of, like an account for timing wise or whatever. And within 5 minutes of watching everybody doing their scene, I'm like, oh wow, acting doesn't change, you know. Same thing as that room in the plaza with Laurel. That's the same. And so I think that's a unique thing that's stood the test of time through all different size of projects and working with all different kinds of actors and directors. It's like being present and letting whatever happens in the moment happen and not trying to manipulate or force anything. That has remained with me.
Yeah, I feel like not only is that really good advice for acting in general, but just in life as a
Yeah.
whole, especially
Yeah.
in today's society, everything's so fast and everyone's busy. So I feel like that's really good advice just to carry with you in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, obviously, that happened a little later. Did you apply that when you moved from tennis to say acting? Because that's not easy. Because you had a dream, like you mentioned, you had a dream your whole life to be a tennis player, right? Like, and obviously pivoting and just shifting your whole focus and your, what you want to do for your life. Like, was that a difficult choice to make? Was that a difficult adjustment, or did you just, kind of what you just mentioned, like you just kind of took it as it went and kind of flowed with it?
It was really hard.
Yeah.
And what's interesting now coming back to professional tennis and being closer than I've ever been to being a pro tennis player, it's even fascinating to look back on the fact that I reconciled, okay, I guess I was never meant to be a pro tennis player. Um, but I have to say that I don't think I ever let it go truly because I ended up going from, okay, I'm on a college team competitively to no, I'm not spending any time competing. I'm going to go back and refine all of my ability and technique. And I went and I coached at these different tennis academies throughout those 8.5 years as a coach. And I always would just like gravitate towards the coach I thought was the best at teaching technique. And I would shadow their lessons, and they were aware of what I was doing. I would ask, could I sit in and watch you teach some of these kids, your best kid, your worst kid, that kind of thing. And it just never left me. And even though I reconciled with like, okay, I can't go play the last 2 years of college tennis. I can't go win and then go play more tournaments. Like I wanted to go pro as soon as possible, but I was so much further away back then. And so the hardest part to reconcile was realizing the distance and just knowing, okay, if I still try to do this, it might take the next 10 years. And that was tough because I wanted it then.
Yeah.
And but I had such a fervor for tennis, and it was such a disciplined time in my life, um, that when I fell into the acting, it all just sort of flipped to that. And luckily, acting is this expansive art form that you could learn about forever and practice forever and do and experience and witness in all different environments. So it just became like, okay, this is the thing now. Until it wasn't, because I ended up quitting acting right around the pandemic. And
Really?
yeah, that was hard to reconcile because this time I wasn't like, first I had quit tennis and then supposedly, then I had to let go of acting and was like, oh wow, I guess acting's also not on the cards, just like tennis. Like I was actually going downhill back then. I was like, damn, I just keep missing. And but I felt that acting had led me to music. So I started to make music under Dragon Wolf, which I still do. And the music actually saved me. I feel like it saved my life, truly. And then I think it saved everything else because it taught me who I was and what I wanted and you know, what my vision for myself was. And then everything else came flooding in. My tennis improved, my acting blew up, you know, and my life just improved. So I really do look at music as like this integral part of the Holy Trinity for me, which is the tennis, the movies, and the music, and then backwards on.
Yeah.
Oh, I really love that. Honestly, I also do music, so I'm a big firm believer on music really heals the soul, and
Hmm.
it's a very spiritual thing, you
Hmm.
know. So I
Very much.
really love that. I did want to ask because I know you just mentioned that you quit acting for a while. Was there a reason why you came to that decision?
Yeah, when I first moved from Texas to Los Angeles, the assumption was awesome. Now I'm going to book roles, bigger roles, and real projects because I am half Ecuadorian, half Latin,
Mm.
half Persian, half Middle Eastern. They're going to be looking for me in LA, you know? They're looking, and diversity was all the rage. Oh, diversity's king, diversity's the thing to do, diversity, everyone wants a diverse actor. And in Texas, no one's looking for someone who looks like me in Texas because nobody looks like me in Texas, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't cast lead roles in Texas, they cast auxiliary roles. And the auxiliary roles, they cast them out of Texas and they're hoping to just find the people they can find in Texas, which is generally not me. Not that that is the, that's why I didn't book roles in Texas or anything, but just that it was less often, less common that I had a shot at anything. So I thought I'm moving to LA and they look for diversity. I'm going to book a bunch of roles. And then I get here and what can I say? The battlegrounds. It was like, I used to describe it like it's a coliseum. My manager and I talk about this. It was a coliseum and there was a single coliseum on the left, a smaller coliseum, and the people, the powers that be, don't go watch the Coliseum fight on the side Coliseum. They have a Coliseum over here of fighters they've had millions of times. They have them all show their moves. They don't even really make them fight each other. It's just like, you're the lead here and you're the lead there. We got you. You know us. We know you. Let's have a party. And this Coliseum, it's every transplant you've ever heard of. Moved to LA, people in New York, people in Austin, self tapes, first round auditions, all that stuff. And it's the one role that is diversity. The one role in the thing, it says open ethnicity. And there are 10,000 actors in LA going for one open ethnicity role in
Yeah.
some big project. And you're all in this Coliseum going for it. So it was like, I realized, wow, okay, you either get something like that where you're competing with every person of color for a role that doesn't even matter. And it's like there's so many roles that it wouldn't have mattered if they were a person of color. You could just cast a good actor. And then I was getting auditions that were like very specifically stereotypical about being Middle Eastern, being a terrorist,
Mm.
um, being some sort of villain or just vile character, poor morals. I'm like, this is so insulting. Or I was getting a
Yeah.
lot of the nerdy, bullied best friend.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, because I'm a brown guy, nerdy, or like the wow, blah, 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 blah. Like weird, loud, funny comedic role. And
Hmm.
I do think Aziz Ansari was one of the more famous brown entertainment industry people back when I first started acting. And Aziz was like this, and he's hilarious. But it definitely, impressed upon the industry about, okay, that's how we're going to cast for them. So I didn't have a bunch of real opportunities. And then I actually was told by probably the premier Latino casting director in LA, he's not Latino enough, even though I'm half Ecuadorian and speak fluent Spanish. It's my first language. Grew up on the border of Mexico and Laredo, Texas. Not Latino enough.
Wow.
And
That's
I get it.
that really
I,
sucks.
it sucked. And it was like, of all people to empathize with the plight of being half Latino, presenting perhaps more Persian, especially with the beard or the facial hair or whatever, to tell someone they're not Latino enough, that is half Latino. Knowing the culture and the nature of that statement, being the premier LA casting director for Latinos, I told my manager, I said, man, I never want to talk to her or go to an audition for her again. And that's crazy. That's a crazy spot to be in or feeling to have. It's like, wow, that's crazy of you to say that. Cause and I'm not denying the fact that it's really her just echoing what the industry feels a Latino should look like.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? At the time I felt very offended by her thinking she would see the Latino. But really it's just she was an echo of the industry at the time, which was Latinos look like this,
Yeah.
Middle Eastern people look like this. And then I would go up for roles and they'd be like, is you said he's half Persian? They're like, yeah, we're really looking to cast a full Persian for this role.
Oh
And it
my
was
gosh.
like, oh, so instead of being able to do any role that's open, role that's Latino and a role that's Middle Eastern and having this range, you're telling me I can't get the any roles because I'm not white, the general roles that have nothing to do with ethnicity. I can't get the Latino roles because I don't look Latino enough. And you're saying I'm not full Persian, so I'm not Persian enough either. That was my experience.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I just was like, okay, this is so insulting. I'm
Yeah.
depressed. All I do is
Yeah.
audition and teach tennis, and it was a sad time, man. And so I got into therapy, made it very obvious and clear within like a week of like 2 weeks. I'm like, oh yeah, acting is like the bane of my life right now. It's actually my kryptonite. It's killing me.
Yeah.
So I had to walk away for like mental health reasons. It was like I'm just not happy doing this because the industry and whatever I'm getting. And I am a firm believer that the world is a reflection of the thoughts you carry. And so it's also, I grant, and take responsibility and accountability in that I probably called a lot of that experience into myself by believing in the idea that the industry wasn't ready for people of color. I bought it and then I saw it. And so I bought it even more. And I just spiraled into this negative belief about industry, about Hollywood, and was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to represent anyone who looks like me in a role that I think is insulting.
Yeah.
And so that immediately, when I made that decision, which music helped me make, I was like, well, and if that's the case, I'll just turn down every audition that feels like that. And then I didn't audition for 6 months. And I just told them, hey, I'm done acting. I'm done. I told my manager and agent, I'm done. I'm just going to make music now. Because with music, at least you're yourself.
Yeah.
You represent yourself. And you get to be exactly who you are, and there's no tie to your ethnicity. There's no need to acknowledge it. You just get to express yourself as an artist. So, yeah, that was why I left.
You wouldn't think that, especially like you would never think that's like how the business really is, and it's actually really, it is insulting. Like you said, it is insulting.
Yeah.
And especially for someone like you obviously by this point you put so much hard work, you moved your entire life. I mean, you moved literally cities, states, even, to go over there to start a new life there. And just to be told that, I can't even imagine. Like, I mean, number one, I don't blame you for stepping
Hmm.
away. I mean, anyone in the right mind, like if there's more negatives than positives for your life, you got to look out for yourself.
Yeah.
But, and real quick before we get into the Star Wars side of things,
Hmm.
like for you, that couldn't have been easy to step away. You did it with tennis for different reasons, but now you're doing it again for your mental health. There's so many people, and I've done something similar to what you did, like stepping away due to mental health, protecting your peace. But there are so many people who don't have the strength to do that. They're trapped in jobs where they're not like, they're making, it's all they know. Or maybe their parents force them to, do their 4 years and just work till they're 60 and, whatever. So a lot of people don't have the courage to do something you did, which is really, honestly, it's really strong of you. What advice would you have for someone who's maybe in that same position? Maybe they're not enjoying their career or situation, to take that leap of faith, to prioritize their happiness.
Hmm. Yeah, I do have so much to say about that, and I will say so much about that the rest of my life. I have come to learn. I have found the way, like the Mandalorians. I have found the way, and I think Star Wars in its core speaks of this connection to the Force and how it lives in all of us. And I think that the desires we have, the dreams we have, are absolutely being sent to us by God or the universe or the Force or whatever. Could be your deepest subconscious. But what I have learned is that we are all very, very, very connected to not only each other, but also something greater. And that greater thing is guiding you through your desires, through your impulses, through the things you love and that make you excited. And so, if you have those dreams and you have those desires and you keep seeing yourself in this movie, you keep seeing yourself on this stage, you keep seeing yourself with this book you've written or sport you play or whatever, in some way, in some shape or form, you are meant to be there. And it may look a little different than the way you see it in your head, but what you see in your head is what's driving you, and you're being gifted with that. That is the gift that you are being given. And now I say to everyone that in following that with love and compassion and respecting and loving yourself and respecting and loving others, the way will open up. It's like walking a path that doesn't have any steps in front of it. But because you have faith that you can see this over here, which is the dream you have, the steps just sort of find themselves underneath you. But as soon as you try to go a path that they tell you this is what you should do, and you don't agree with that, but you're following it because someone, your parents told you this, or your friends told you that, or the world told you one other thing. As soon as you step on a path that is not yours, even though you see the steps, because people say, look at the steps I took, look at them. You go, oh, okay, I can take those steps and get to mine. And they go, yeah, yours is similar to mine. You take their step and you fall right through because it's not your way, it's not your path, right? And it can be scary to walk on nothing and to just have faith and trust and just surrender. It is. But what I've learned is that the more you care for your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, the more you embrace healthy, loving relationships and get rid of negative things in your life, the more often the way will light itself up in front of you. You know, so the clearer you experience life, the clearer your path will be. And it really starts at home. It starts with you. If you're not happy, if you don't know how to connect to the happiness inside you, to your comfort level, to your boundaries, to your nerves, to your anxiety, to what makes you comfortable or uncomfortable, if you don't have that internal gauge or radar, you will not be able to see the path in front of you. So you have to go there first. And that's what I did during that time away from acting. I became a musician, and the music, as you know, was such a dissection of all the pieces of myself. And once I got through them all, I was like, okay, this is what I want. This is what I love. And this is who I am. Great. Now, that's when things started to just come into my life that were perfectly aligned. I was like, what do you mean there's an animated character I look like at every stage of my life? What do you mean there's an animated character that my 14-year-old self also looks like and the older version looks like me as well? That's a ridiculous alignment. But it came after a year and a half of like, or like a, yeah, year and a half of deep personal work that if they said, hey, Star Wars or the work, you know, the results of the work you did, I'd say, what? I'm sorry, I love you, Star Wars, but this brought me peace. This brought me joy. This reminded me what life should be like instead of, you know, the heavier times where you wake up and you don't want to wake up because you don't like your life. You don't like your job. You rather just, you wish you could sleep for 10 hours, 10 days, 10 years. But, you know, making that leap can be tough. And this is a very long message, I know.
No, it's
But
perfect.
It's great.
but it's the leap you're supposed to take. We're all here to live a life that is full of joy and full of peace. And then you will also be motivated to do the things that help others and the things that make a difference so that others can feel love and peace and joy. And I just say, you know, make sure you love yourself and you've connected with yourself and don't lose faith.
Yeah, I really love everything that you just said.
Mm,
And I also feel like that ties into Ezra, you know,
mm,
and how you managed to become Ezra. So I want to know, what was that process like, and did you have to audition?
mm. Yeah, it was strange. So, like, during that process of not being an actor, I see a picture of Ezra Bridger as an adult, and someone wrote like, "Oh, da da da," as Space Aladdin. And I had been on a BuzzFeed article at the beginning of my career to play the live action Aladdin. I didn't really ever get an audition that wasn't just the like general email casting call. Um, and but I went on this they got me on this BuzzFeed article, and it was like this whole thing. Iman, Aladdin, oh my God. I was like, and I thought, oh my God, it's happening. I'm gonna play Aladdin. This is my big break. And I'm out of here, you know, thinking of Austin. And it didn't happen. And then, you know, years later, I'm not even an actor anymore, but I see Space Aladdin. I'm like, whoa, I love space. I love sci-fi. And I was almost Aladdin in a way. Spiritually, I felt like I was Aladdin. And so I said, okay, cool. I'm gonna look into this. I look into it. There's an animated series, Star Wars Rebels. I'm like, that's cool, interesting. At the time, didn't really have any money in my account. So when it came to getting on Disney Plus and buying a subscription, my first thought was like, shit, I won't be able to watch this. I don't have Disney Plus, and I'm not about to pay for it, you know? And but weirdly enough, my little Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, whatever it was that makes my TV smart, that I've had since college, someone signed in on Disney Plus and it's the Walker family. And I know that sounds crazy now, but at the time I didn't know Star Wars, so I didn't know anything about Skywalker or this or that and the other. I truly had no clue. I just thought Walker. And I'm looking through my phone like, what Walkers do I know? Did I date a girl who signed in and we watched something? Like, I have no clue. I'm like, doesn't matter. It's on, it's open. I'm just gonna go to the show. So I go watch Rebels. I start watching Rebels, and then as soon as Ezra comes on, it's as if someone showed up in the room, not visually, but just like energetically. I was like, huh. And I paused the TV. And at this point in my life, I had had some very strange experiences with people who had passed away, dreams, visions. I was hanging out with a lot of spiritual people, psychics, mediums, healers, and a lot of that kind of stuff. And it was great. It was very healthy, and it was a lot of great insight. But so I had been already accustomed to like sort of talking to spirits or whatever I'm talking to. And I'm acknowledging, I'm like, hello, and he's like, hey, what's up? Like, very Ezra. Imagine Ezra. So you could imagine even as me, shows up in the living room and is like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, are you, is this what I think it is? Because I had made an agreement with like my vessel that I would be open to channeling a spirit or whatever through acting, because that way
Mm.
I understood it. It clicked for me after a certain experience with that. I was like, oh, that's how I felt when I was an actor at my best, When I did my best work, it felt like I handed the controller over to something else, happens, and then cut, Iman, that was great. Can you do this, that, and the other? And I'd be like, yeah. And in my head, I'd be like, did you hear that? Whoever that is, whoever just did that take, because I feel like I blacked out. You got to do what they just said. And so I was sort of open to the idea already, but also it's an animated character. So I was also kind of like, dang, I must be losing my shit. You know, I must be going crazy. Too much time alone in this pandemic. And anyway, he says he wants to play through me. I send an email to my agent and managers with 3 pictures of him and 3 pictures of me. And I say, hey, when they cast for Ezra Bridger, Jedi in Star Wars, I will play him. Use these photos. There's evidence of this email somewhere. I have to find it. I have a picture of it, but apparently
Wow.
they delete old emails on Gmail. Couldn't find it the other day. And I'm wearing shorts, by the way. It looks like I'm not. That was funny, dude. I'm
Bro.
not gonna leave my knee up there. It looks like I'm naked from the bottom down. um, but anyway, so then I agree to this. I send the email to the agent manager. My manager calls me. He's like, "Hey, is this one of your woo-woo things?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I hope it works. I really love Star Wars." I'm like, "Yeah, me too." Because in my head, I'm like, I'm losing it. I spoke
Yeah.
to a cartoon in my living room about being a Jedi, so I hope it works too. And I let it go. I forgot about it. 6 months go by. I shoot an A24 movie called The Inspection. And while in the middle of that, we get this dummy side audition, NDAs, two scenes, not from the actual show, no naming of the real character. And they said, "Hey, we think this is that audition." And I read the character description, and it's like Ezra just shows up again. I'm like, "Hey, man," and wow. And he's like, "Yeah, I told you." And I'm like, "I know, but what the hell's going on?" I don't know. It's new to me. And so we do the scene, one take each scene, send it in. Next day, get put on a veil. And then my manager calls me to tell me I'm put on a veil, but I was calling him to tell him, hey, I think Robert Rodriguez, El Mariachi, Robert Rodriguez, who I just did Red 11 with, a feature, maybe a few years before, went to Cannes together. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he just did Star Wars. Do you think he knows Dave? And he's like, maybe. So I text Robert, hey, Robert, do you know this guy? And he's like, Dave Filoni? Absolutely. And I tell him, oh, I'm on a veil for this character, Ezra. He goes, great. And he calls Dave Filoni. And this was the coolest thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like an old connection, old filmmaker I've worked with who's also just very big too. So I'm not trying to like bother him and text him all the time. But he does the call. And Dave said that when he got the call from Robert, they were like, all right, give him the role. No callback, nothing. They just offered me the
Wow.
role that next day. So shout out Robert Rodriguez for really helping such, a big moment happen, but also being instrumental in letting me be in Red 11 early on in my career in Austin. And yeah, and then I got the role.
Wow,
That's
that's
insane.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like
I
obviously I
felt,
don't do acting. Let's go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say I felt very relieved, because I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
like we don't do acting, so obviously, I don't know the space enough, but I can't imagine that's a very common thing, you know?
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
Absolutely not.
It was meant
I
to
don't
Yeah.
think
be.
so either. Yeah. There's now that I know all about Star Wars and I've seen everything, I'm like, not super weird for Star Wars standards, you know? Like a Force Ghost or a Holocron or World Between Worlds. I'm like, they've kind of opened it all up now. And not, what Ezra's explanation to me, by the way, when I said, aren't you, kind of being like, aren't you a cartoon, He goes, listen, I am very real to all the people in my universe, and I'm also technically more real to more people, even in your universe, than you are.
Damn,
And
he called you out.
I really like immediately understood what he meant. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you're right. More people know who you are than me. And who is to say that makes you more, like, just because I'm here, I'm more real than you, but those people don't even know who I am. But they grew up with you. So what is it to be real or not real, or what exists in which universe? I was like, yeah, there's kind of some sound logic in that in a way. I'm talking about physical matter, but he's talking about like what? I was like, yeah, cool. All right, I'm with it.
Yeah.
So it was fascinating.
So did you see him physically like as a being, or was it more like you sensed a presence?
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
you close, like we're all, like if we were all in the same room, and then you closed your eyes, I closed my eyes, and I walked around, you could kind of feel maybe where I'm walking around. You know how
Yeah.
that feeling of something in the room, it felt like that, but it felt very like obviously just like right there. I was like, huh, hello, like what the heck.
Yeah.
um, but it is just part of like there's this whole other story unfolding in my life that is very spiritual and unique and woo woo, and it's just one part of many of those experiences I've had. So now so by that point I was a little bit more like, all right, what's up? Who are you? Ezra? Fuck, that's awesome. Let's do this. What the heck? And here we are. It's still going.
Yeah. And have you always been quite spiritually attuned, would you say?
Not to this degree. I think my mother, she's my Ecuadorian side. She's always had some unique things happen, premonitions, visions. She had actually a dream that would work with Robert Rodriguez and that he would introduce me to other filmmakers and I would have a big career.
Wow.
It was when I first started acting and I was like, I couldn't even how could I even meet Robert Rodriguez? I'm in student short films. I was like, Mom, I really hope that comes true. And it did. That literally did come true. And so and there's been other things too with our family members where she'll have a dream about someone and something will happen. So it wasn't out of my realm of like belief. It just wasn't happening in my life to the degree it now happens. I think I just wasn't attuned to it back then, but maybe it's always been happening.
They do say that if you're open to it, as long as you're open to it, you'll receive it, you
Yeah.
know. And we've experienced that firsthand with some things as well. So I feel like because you mentioned you had family members as well, So I bet that your openness tied into that.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't weird for you. It wasn't like, oh, I mean, well, a little bit like animated. Oh my
A
god, but
little bit, yeah. It was
yeah,
really just the cartoon of it all. I'm like,
yeah,
does
Yeah.
it work with you? Like, are
yeah,
you technically allowed to do that? You know,
yeah.
but yeah.
No, 100%. And would you say that like that spirituality side of you, would you say it guides your decisions now too? Not just with that? Like, does it still influence you today?
It's at the forefront of everything. I mean,
That's
I
incredible.
like I mentioned earlier, you have to be good inner before you go out. Not that you have to, right? Not that when you don't feel at peace or enjoy that you can't go out and do things. There are things that will bring you those things, right? But just that my focus is generally on if I'm my best self, I can do the most good for the most amount of people, you know? So, and I just want to do good for the most amount of people. I want to make people happy. I want to inspire people. I want to help people, literally, if I can, physically, or, however I can in my life as it grows. Um, but if I'm not helping myself, then it's setting a bad example anyway. It's setting an example of self-compromise or self-sacrifice that is not with the sake of longevity in mind. It's like you may disguise an act in front of you as, oh, I'm compromising so that right now there's a greater good. It's like, right, but enough compromise and you will compromise yourself and you will end up injecting less good over the longer period of time than if you managed all that throughout the way. So everything goes back to being at peace with the decisions I make or the actions I take or the projects I endeavor on. It's always, does this make me happy? Does this bring me peace? And yeah, does it not harm anyone?
Yeah. And going back to obviously Ezra, was it,
Mhm.
I want to know, was it hard to keep it a secret that you were in Star Wars, especially from friends and family? Because I can imagine it must be just the most insane thing ever to tell people that. And especially because your character was kept secret for most of the show as well.
Yeah, no, that was a tough time of just having to like wait around and watch all, oh my gosh, all the press and all the like Ahsoka billboards but it was also exciting. It was like, wow, I get to be a part of this and I'm witnessing it firsthand while being attached and I'm the MacGuffin, like eventually they'll get to me and it'll come up and it's this whole secret and surprise and so it was also exciting at the same time as like me really wishing I could say more, but admittedly, I told my family, my mom, dad, and sister, and just swore them to secrecy. But also, none of them are big Star Wars people. So I knew that they wouldn't feel the urge to be like, oh my, no, you
Yeah.
have to know what just happened with my son and his career. It's like they don't even know how big Star Wars is really.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know, and I knew more than them, but I couldn't even understand. So it was kind of like all of us, they were more like, okay, like, when do you get to start working? Is it going to pay well? Are you being taken care of? Like, they were just like, Iman, does this help your life? You know what I mean? As opposed to
Yeah.
like, whoa, you're in Star Wars. They don't know anything about Star Wars back then. They were like, whatever. They're like, are you happy with this? And that was really nice. So it didn't feel any pressure about um, them saying anything. And I didn't even give them details, so to speak. I just told them I'm in this thing and it's big and that kind of stuff. But it was kind of, it was frustrating to keep the secret when it was all premiering. That's when I was like, oh my God, I want to say
Yeah.
Yeah.
something. But it was also fun. I knew I'd be in it for like that I'm in it, and that means you're in it for life. The show exists forever. It's like an immortal capturing of my experience. So I knew like, yes, I'm waiting and I can't say anything now, but then after I'm in it, I could say anything forever and get to celebrate the experience of it in time.
That's incredible.
Hmm.
When you were on set, I mean, like obviously you've had like, I mean, they give you the costume, you got they got the contact lenses and everything. And were you ever throughout it all, did you ever have a moment where it like struck you really hard, like, oh my God, like I'm in Star Wars, like this is insane. Like, did you ever have like a wow moment throughout your, the first season?
Yeah, I'd say my wowest moment. Um, It's a little less that it's like Star Wars, but also it's completely related to Star Wars and sort of what Star Wars has stood for in the industry for so long. I had done a movie. I had mentioned during the casting process, The Inspection,
Hmm.
A24 movie, and I play an American who's Muslim, um, joins the Marines during Don't Ask, Don't Tell era, and Jeremy, who plays the lead actor, that is playing also the director because it's on an autobiographical narrative by Elegance Bratton. It's this beautiful film about him joining the Marines in search of approval from his mother, who didn't approve of him being gay. And so it's a heavy movie, and my character is another ostracized character that Elegance, from his real experience, witnessed in the Marines for being Muslim, for being Middle Eastern. Even though he's joining an American military organization, it was very close to home since the war was in the Middle East at that point. So if you look like the enemy, they treated you like the enemy. And there's a scene in that movie where one of the actors sees my prayer beads while we're all laying prone, aiming rifles at a target. It's just a barrel, they're prop guns, and we're acting. But he grabs me, picks me up, throws me in front of the barrel. This is all part of the scene. I'm very aware we're going to do this. And then he starts going on this rant because he's triggered because he's lost friends in the movie to the Middle East. And he says, aim your guns at him, take a good look at him, ignore the uniform. This is what your enemy looks like. And that, as an actor and a human, hit me so much harder than I was prepared for. I remember just like feeling like a gut to my stomach about it because it was reminiscent of growing up in Texas during 9/11 era. And as soon as my name is said out loud, Eman Esfandi, in high school at least, here come the jokes, the terrorism
Oh,
stuff, the
yeah.
racism, and it's fine. I feel like everyone in some way, every person of color, especially in a more homogenous area, they're gonna go through that, anywhere in the world, doesn't matter. But I had my fair share, and I guess all that stuff was so deeply seated, and I thought gone, not a part of my life anymore. To feel it like a dagger from that line, it just popped something. And I left to the forest after that scene and just wept for a while, like just let it out. I learned from therapy at that point, you got to let that out. So I was like, I'm leaving for a little while. They were like, okay, you need anything? I'm like, no. And then I just found a tree, and like it was like years of it. And then my first day on Ahsoka, we shot my last scene where I'm in the Stormtrooper Night for Trooper outfit, walking down the ship and arriving to see Hera. And like I said in the A24, they're all pointing their fake guns at me. And that really, I felt that even though it's just a movie, we're playing pretend, it just hit me. The
Yeah.
symbolism of it really hit me. So then I'm about to go down the steps, and my stormtrooper helmet's getting foggy, and it's like hard to see the floor. You can't look down. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna do all this walking? And like, I'm thinking of all these technical things to try to make sure I can hit my mark and give Hera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, what she needs so we can perform, right? And they're shooting that side first, and it's an entire starship. It's like with the volume, and it's like I walk down the steam, the fog all goes. I walk down slow. All of them, all the New Republic people like file in and put their guns up, and they're all pointing their guns at me, including Mary. But then in this universe, I take off my helmet, and because of who I am and because of how I look, all the guns go down. And I saw that, and I just was like, wow. I didn't realize that would tie back to the A24 moment that hit. I almost didn't go back to acting because of that movie. I was like, I don't know if I do that kind of stuff. And so then they all came down, and I was like, whoa. And then, it's a very technical set. So something happened. They're like, we got to go again. I was like, okay. And then I'm just like in my Stormtrooper helmet crying because I'm like, oh,
Oh.
wow. Like, yeah, it's just really crazy, to be seen as a hero in this universe. And it's like supposedly the future, even though it's not the future, we all know that, but it looks futuristic. So it just felt really good. And so that line, I'm home, it really I had that in it. It was there for that. And I do feel at home with Star Wars. So, oh man, I always cry now.
No, man, it's
Oh, it
beautiful.
really is.
Yeah, but that's probably the moment that sticks with me the most now that time has passed and stuff. I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was it for me.
It's beautiful.
Oh wow. Yeah. That's like really touching to hear that. It's
Mhm.
almost like coming full circle as well
Yeah,
because of things you've been through or experienced before, and now it's like the opposite effect. Everyone's like they see you and everyone's happy, and it's like this really it's such a heartwarming moment during
yeah,
that episode. So yeah. Oh, that's really, really heartwarming to hear that.
yeah, yeah.
um yeah, I did want to ask as well because obviously we know the character of Ezra Bridger through Rebels, and
Hmm.
I know that was an animated series. So
Yeah.
obviously now we get Ezra in live action. Does that come with, I guess, a certain amount of pressure to bring this character that's well known to live action and do it
Hmm.
justice?
I think generally it does. And people would mention that to me, people on the crew and people on set would be like, "Hey, like you must be feeling alone." I'm like, I haven't even watched Rebels. Like Dave Dave said I don't need to watch Rebels, and I don't want to talk about it. I like the lines I have. I
Yeah.
know my guy who showed up in my living room. He's with me, and I'm working on the fighting, and that's all I needed to think about. Dave made sure I was so relaxed. He just never ever put any pressure. He was so relaxed. It's like, hey, Mon, sometimes you say things, and I'm like, this is so weird. You're Ezra. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's really great. And so I just sort of wanted to enjoy it again because acting was still on the fence for me. This was the project that made me stay with acting. If it wasn't for this, I probably wouldn't have gone back to acting after my experience with the inspection. So it was kind of like I just wanted to enjoy it, just wanted to have fun. I'm getting to swing a lightsaber. I have costumes. I'm fighting. You know, they're teaching me how to fight. I've always wanted to learn
Yeah.
that much. And so I really just didn't even pay any attention to the pressure it might feel or the pressure it would create being someone else, taking over for someone else. But Taylor Gray, all the credit to him. I mean, I'm standing on his shoulders and his work with Rebels through the 4 seasons and all the other castmates. And Rebels is such an amazing piece of Star Wars. It's such a like a pillar now, in my opinion. Now that I know all about, now that I've watched it all, I'm like, whoa, you really gotta watch. Like, this is really good Star Wars, and that's Taylor Gray, you know. And everything I stepped into with Ezra comes from how much love and life he poured into that character animated. You know, it's not as easy to be able to connect with people through a voice only in the animation, and Taylor and everyone else, they did that. And so I'm very grateful to that and their work. And you know, I have Taylor's career to be grateful to, because if not for his talent, I wouldn't be able to step in and be the live action version of Ezra. But luckily, no pressure. And now I
Yeah.
just feel very grateful.
That's
Yeah.
so amazing. And I know you mentioned like sometimes Dave would say, oh, you literally are Ezra. So do you feel like you have a lot of similarities with this character?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was why I was so also pretty confident about, like, I don't need to watch Rebels. I did read all of the Wikipedia about Ezra. I read it like he was a historical figure. You know, you can't watch a show about playing Abe Lincoln. You know, you're gonna go read about Abe Lincoln. So I sort of treated it like that, and I just thought, wow, Ezra and I have similar. It's like us growing up, we were similar, different universes, you know, different disciplines, me being tennis, him being Jedi, but similar experiences, similar snark, similar
Yeah.
arrogance turned grounded and communal confidence. And so I feel like, but Ezra was funnier than I was. Not funnier than I was. I shouldn't say that. Ezra didn't have any thoughts about race and representation on his mind. Ezra was in the Star Wars galaxy where everybody's everything. And I had that. So I avoided doing comedic things or showing myself in too funny or too light of a light so that I wouldn't get boxed into the comedic brown man actor role in the industry. And I think that just sort of stuck with me, you know, subconsciously, even when I wasn't acting anymore. You know, I wasn't as like goofy and jolly as I really am naturally. Just like the way I like to be is jokes, and my dad and I were pranksters, and that's just always how I've been. And so seeing Ezra be like that while also being, you know, a hero and a leader and also a little brother and like, you
Yeah.
know, just like he is just so himself that it gave me permission to let all that go as well, that I didn't even know I was holding on to. And then just be like, oh yeah, like whatever. If they think this because I'm funny, they can think that. It doesn't mean I'm going to take a role like that. You know, like I am in control. I am the captain of my ship. This is my experience. I can agree to things I want to agree to and disagree to the others. And his character, his levity, his humor let me just kind of let loose, and then it aligns because our humor is similar because we had similar experiences in a weird way.
It is therapeutic in a way.
I mean, it's made me so much happier. Like my life has changed because of what playing Ezra has opened up and allowed in me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think one of the sweetest parts, one of the most beautiful parts about it is how you said earlier, like, you know, you're coming out of the ship, they're all pointing the blasters at you. And then, like, obviously, they all put it down because they're so happy to see you, you know?
Mm.
And that's like, that was probably a moment, well, like you said earlier, like, it was a moment for you where you felt the opposite of what you felt doing that one film, you know, where it was like everyone was just happy to see you. And I feel like it ties in as well kind of to the release of the show. You know, when the
Mm.
show released, this is a beloved character. People love this character for years. The show is all about family. You know, you have a group, you have a Mandalorian, you have a Twi'lek, you have a Jedi, you know, like Zeb, you know, they're all different ethnicities, different backgrounds. And I feel like as well, that must have been such a beautiful feeling when you got the world to see the show and see your performance, because everyone loves your performance and everyone loves you of who you are. So that must have also tied into that feeling on set that day of just really just feeling like, wow, like I can't, you know, like I can't imagine how that feels going
Yeah.
from what you went to now.
Ah, man. I mean, I think that it's like I think it's pretty universal. It's just to be seen and to be accepted versus to be misunderstood and rejected. And that's like at the core of identity for everybody. Even if you grew up in a city where everybody looks like you, then it's like, how do you be yourself? You know, like I think it is one of those core human experiences.
Yeah.
And to be on both sides of that and have experienced what I did throughout my life and then experiencing this in my later life, just like you were saying earlier, it feels very therapeutic. I feel like all of this has been on the grand journey of Iman's road to happiness. You know, like I joined therapy and realized, oh, I'm not happy. Oh, I've been depressed. Oh, that's what depression is. Oh, dang, I'm pretty far down that hole. And she's like, that's okay. I'm here to help you. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, thank God I decided to get into therapy. I was close, you know, I was like, things were not looking good. And so to come all the way around and have all these experiences like music or tennis or film that feel healing, or Twitch. I'm Twitch streaming now and
I
returning
love that.
to my gamer roots. And I tell you, it feels like therapy to play games for that many hours a week. You know, like to sit down and dedicate time to order a meal and just play a game. I feel like I'm in a different kind of therapy that I've never done. And all of it's sort of been on the road to being happy, because then when you're happy, you don't long or need too much. You're not like, I want this and I don't have it. I want that. Happiness to me is just like stillness, peace. You could just look around and you're so content. And interestingly enough, the things you want to manifest, they come when you're in that state, uh, as opposed to the state of chasing or longing. So I'm just happy. I'm just happy.
It's incredible. And I love, just a side note, I love the Twitch that you do the Twitch streams, because we've both done Twitch for a long time. So I know what that's like. It's a very one-on-one type of thing, you know, where you got to really interact. It's different than Twitter or Instagram where you know, people comment. It's more of like a, you know, they can interact with you in real time.
You can really
Yeah.
connect, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. And especially probably for you, like being able to just connect with so many Star Wars fans, you know, that just love to
Yeah.
just hang out with you. It's just, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been so much fun. The chat, they've been named Bridger Brigade 333. That's their name
I
now.
love that.
I call them BB3s, which is great because I'm playing Jedi Fallen Order. So there's BD1, they're the BB3s, you know.
Yeah.
My music fans are DWA. It's cool. Like we're getting all these acronyms going, and it's just like this fun community. And it's been like a solid core of kind of the same people the first four streams I've done, and a bunch of visitors, you know, people from different parts of the world that are signing on at like 4 a.m. going, just wanted to say hi. And I'm like, wow, that's so
So
crazy.
cool.
But
Oh.
I've done a lot of Comic Cons, and at Comic Con you get a one-on-one moment with, you know, however many people show up. So I had to have met at least, I have probably met almost 100,000 people in person from Comic Cons, like shaking their hands and people out in public or whatever. And I've had a convo with all these people about Star Wars, you know, and mostly about Star Wars, some of it about Spider-Man now, but it's just been like so fun to connect to all these people. And I realized, wow, if I had this growing up, I would have been so much happier. You know, like if I had friends like this who liked all the things I liked, or if I just knew about Comic Cons to go to them and stuff. And so it feels like I'm just getting to talk to people who I would have been friends with had I known them in earlier life. And doing Twitch feels like, well, I know how many people message me all the time about I can't go to a Comic Con, or I can't afford to go to a Comic Con, or it's too far away, or, you know, they're just not able to do that. It's not an easy thing to do. And I'm very grateful for everyone who shows up because it's a big deal. But I thought, okay, well, I'm not like looking to alienate anybody, and I was gonna do the video games anyway because it's canon. And I was like, oh, I just want to watch more Star Wars. And yeah, someone convinced me to just do it on Twitch. I said, okay. And so far it's been a blast because now I'm like, oh, cool. It's like all the homies. We all just get together and they help me through the game, and they're like my, Jedi masters in the game in a way. Um, and then it's a cool place where I could like, sort of talk about all the things I'm up to. Like I'm playing this tournament, or I'm about to release a new song, so I previewed it on the Twitch, and learning, it's just a great hangout. I'm like, you guys love Star Wars so much that I don't have to hold back what I want to say about Star Wars, or what I want to talk about, or what I want to
Yeah.
ask. I don't have to hold back. And not that I have to hold back with the people I know, but no one I know in my kind of more day-to-day life knows as much about Star Wars. So it's
Yeah.
just like, what am I going to say? What are we going to talk about? Because so it just doesn't come up, I've got one buddy, David, who helps me with the Twitch, and he's the only one I can like dive into Star Wars with, and Paul a little bit, but mostly David. And so it feels really good, It feels like I'm a dog who has zoomies and is finally getting let loose out, and it's like let loose with everyone who loves Star Wars as well. It's really a great feeling.
Oh, that's so nice. And, especially like you say on Twitch, it's such a different vibe, isn't it? And you can really connect with other Star Wars fans that way. So kind of going on from that, is there anything that you would like to share with any Star Wars fans that are watching this right now? Or maybe what message or advice do you think Ezra might give?
That's a really good question. Ezra.
Jabba the Hutt.
Ezra, what advice would you give, Ezra? I think Ezra would say, and Dave, if you watch this, don't watch this. I think Ezra would say, Ezra's advice to anyone watching this um, would be something like, the most important thing is the people around you, and the way you treat them and they treat you will be a reflection of how the world will treat each other. So focus on the people around you, and then focus on everyone else. I feel like that's something he thinks about, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And Iman, for everyone watching, aka Jabba, aka Dev, aka Lando, aka Dragon Wolf, aka
You've got a
LS757,
lot of nicknames.
aka Emperor's nephew, aka Ezra Bridger. Iman here saying, thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing your love of Star Wars, and may the Force be with you.
Aw, thank you so much, Iman. I
Yeah,
really
of course.
appreciate it. And
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for being a part of this, for
Thank
joining us.
y'all. And thanks for having me. Congratulations on the podcast. Can't wait to watch the episodes when they come out.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yeah, of course. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.